Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Kaizen Crypto. So JP Morgan has officially kicked this cyber hornet nest, the same global banking giant that financed corruption, rigged markets, engineered bailout, and protected Jeffrey Epstein for 2 decades, and now want you to believe that Bitcoin is the threat to financial stability. And in today's episode, I'm going to show you the receipt, the timeline, the smoking gun, a coordinated pressure campaign on MicroStrategy, on Sailor, and on Bitcoin itself. This isn't FUD, this isn't speculation, this was an economic hit engineered behind the closed door, timed to perfection, amplified worldwide, while retail panic sold into the floor, and tonight we will break it down step by step. Let's dive in.
Carl, a new social media post here from the President of the United States. He is calling for a Department of Justice investigation into JP Morgan, former President Bill Clinton, and others involved in relationships with Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what the President said on social media just a short time ago. He says, now that the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try and deflect from their disastrous shutdown and all their other failures, I will be asking Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, together with our great patriots at the FBI, to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, JP Morgan Chase, and many other people and institutions to determine what was going on with them and him. He goes on to say, records show that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein and on his island. Stay tuned. So this presents a significant challenge for those individuals and institutions that the president is suggesting he is going to turn the Department of Justice onto. Clearly, there's a history with a number of these individuals and institutions with Jeffrey Epstein. The potential for embarrassing headlines is certainly there for all of them. And it represents a political response here from the President of the United States, who has been under fire for several days now from new emails released on Capitol Hill that show Jeffrey Epstein in emails years before his death discussing his deep and ongoing relationship with Donald Trump that was active for several decades and ended abruptly around 2004. All of that pressure from the Epstein scandal on the president and this White House now appearing to result in a social media post in which the president is demanding that his Department of Justice investigate others for their relationships with Jeffrey Epstein. So we'll see what the White House has to say about this, any additional detail from the Department of Justice on where this investigation might go.
Before we go deeper into Epstein, Jamie Dimon, or many call Operation Choke Point 3.0, you need to see this timeline. Once you see it, you will understand why this was never organic. This was scripted. May 14th, Jim Kynos goes on camera. Long Bitcoin, short MicroStrategy, a public sentiment nudge, a single flare. On July 7th, JP Morgan hikes margin on MicroStrategy from 50% to 95%. That's the type of liquidity squeeze that can push companies' stock into weakness. And that's exactly what happened. On September, Metaplanet announces capital raise. MSCI panics. Why? Maybe because Sailor's playbook was spreading beyond US, Japan, Asia, Europe. Global adoption was accelerating, then came the smoke gun. MSCI freezes Metaplanet from the index to avoid potential reverse turnover. Means we can't let more companies across the world put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. That threatens old financial architecture. And right in the middle of this, Trump drops his tariff bombshell and global market absolutely nosedive. The whole story vanishes under pure macro chaos. And you think that just coincidence? Think again. On November 20th, the ambush drops. JP Morgan pulls out a 42-day-old MSCI note and instantly weaponizes the narrative at maximum fear. MicroStrategy delisting risk. We are talking billions potentially flowing out. That's not analysis. That's strategic coordinated attack. And people pulling their own stock out of JP Morgan. That's not concern. That's the old guard defending its territory. So why is JP Morgan really doing this? Let me make it crystal clear. This isn't about MicroStrategy. This isn't about MSCI. This is about global monetary power. A massive tug of war between the two competing financial systems. Old guard, legacy banks, Wall Street, central banks, institutions built on debt control and opaque balance sheet. And new guard, Bitcoin, digital asset, stable coins, the emerging global treasury architecture. Transparent, programmable, and borderless. And sitting right in the middle of this system, MicroStrategy, the bridge, the largest corporate Bitcoin converter in the human history. JP Morgan isn't attacking Sailor. They are attacking the bridge to the new financial system.
Is MicroStrategy down because Bitcoin is down, or is Bitcoin falling apart because the strategies of the world, the Michael Saylors of the world, have to sell the crypto because their equity is going down? What's the chicken? What's the egg?
Yeah. Well, again, because of my world in research and on BitMine, we are really plugged into all the trading desks and all the clients that trade. Anybody who has a sizable Bitcoin long position, okay, let's say it's more than $1 billion, they have very limited ability to hedge it in crypto derivatives, like calls. The max they can do is maybe 5% of their holdings. And then if you go to traditional CME exchanges, their contract sizes prevent someone from hedging $1 billion portfolio. However, someone can use MicroStrategy's options chain, which is so liquid, to hedge all of their crypto. So MicroStrategy is essentially absorbing all the hedging pressure that the crypto industry is trying to do to protect the Bitcoin longs. So the reason MicroStrategy is a leading indicator, it's actually the only convenient way to hedge someone's long is to short MicroStrategy or buy puts. That's what we're seeing today.
This is the kind of stuff, Tom, it's one of the main reasons that we bring you on, because you understand what I would consider the engine oil of the stock market, right? We know how the engine works, or people think they do, but inside that engine, there are gears, there are pistons, there are things that are occurring that for 99.9% of our audience, they don't do this for a living. We get it. This is a really important interview. I'm going to let you go, Tom. We are watching MicroStrategy or strategy, watching Bitcoin, and we're watching possibly 77,000, which you think might be kind of a washout period, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Tom DeMark, who is an advisor to BitMine,
Very well known,
really giving a lot of insights. Yeah, he's watching that. Actually, MicroStrategy at this level here probably is when you want to ratchet into the longs, and Bitcoin maybe just a few $1,000s lower.
So we might be at the bottom for strategy.
Yeah.
Tom Lee basically confirmed it. MicroStrategy is being used as a hedging vector, a liquidity pressure valve. It is the only Bitcoin treasury big enough for Wall Street to use as their volatility shock absorber. And you think JP Morgan isn't aware of that?
You know, Bitcoin's been around for 15 years. It's had 15 major drawdowns. It's always come back to a new all-time high. If you zoom out, this is just par for the course. This is normal in the life cycle of an emergent transformational asset class. And it's a healthy thing. It clears out the tourists, the leverage, and the weak holders, and sets the basis for the next rally upward.
A lot of folks are saying when Wall Street was kicking the tires that when Wall Street got involved, we'd have less volatility. And is that, do you feel it's the Wall Street connection, has that helped or hurt?
You know, I think we are getting less volatility. When I got into this space in 2020, Bitcoin was an 80 vol asset, growing about 80% a year. And it's ground down to 70, 70, 60, 60, and now it's 50 vol asset, growing about 50% a year. I think every few years, you're going to get another 5 points of vol taken off it as it matures. And it's kind of grinding toward being about 1.5 times as volatile as the S&P index and 1.5 times better performing.
Could it be to a degree a victim of its own success in the sense that it feels like other cryptos this year and other, other stories in this area have gotten a lot of attention. Also, of course, gold. Does gold take away some potential Bitcoin buyers?
Well, there's a lot of exciting things going on in the economy. There's digital intelligence and AI. There's digital assets, digital currency, digital finance, and you can't dismiss any of them, but Bitcoin still remains the ultimate digital opportunity for a sound money enthusiast. So if you simply want to save your money forever and avoid counterparty risk, Bitcoin is stronger than ever. These other opportunities are going to continue to be shiny things, and you can leave them to the tech investors that are experts in those areas.
So let's talk about your company for a moment. So strategy, the shares, we're going to put it on the screen here. Getting hammered pretty good. And many talk about the financing your financing approach. Explain to the audience once again the approach that you use to raise money so that you can buy Bitcoin, and why why maybe it's some are saying that that's going to collapse.
The company is up about 70% a year for the past 5 years. Bitcoin's up about 50% a year for the past 5 years. So it's actually one of the top performing companies, maybe it plus NVIDIA in the entire S&P index. We're also the best capitalized company in the crypto economy. We've got more than $50 billion of equity, and we're a financial powerhouse. We have billions of dollars of liquidity in the equity every day, and our credit instruments are 100 times more liquid than the average preferred equity. So our approach is to raise capital by selling digital credit or by selling equity to invest in Bitcoin, which is digital capital. Bitcoin's appreciating about 50% a year for the past 5 years. We expect it'll appreciate about 30% a year for the next 20 years. And we offer these credit instruments that pay about 10% dividend yield in the form of a return on capital dividend, so it's tax deferred. And so it's a pretty strong business model. If you want to work out the math, as long as Bitcoin goes up 1.25% a year, the company can pay the dividend forever and create more shareholder value. If Bitcoin stops going up 0% forever, we got about 80 years to figure out what we're going to do about that.
What if Bitcoin goes down more, though? Is there a point on the downside that triggers some sort of a domino effect?
The company is engineered to take an 80 to 90% drawdown and keep on ticking. So I think we're pretty indestructible. Our leverage is, in the level of 10 to 15% going towards zero right now, which is extremely, extremely robust.
Sailor strategy can withstand 90% of Bitcoin crash before hitting collateral risk. And remember, MicroStrategy still runs a profitable software business. They have issued 5 structured Bitcoin credit instruments, raised $7.7 billion offering just this year, and hold balance sheet larger than some entire countries. This isn't a meme stock playing games. Yet ironically, it may be racing towards its own GameStop style movement. But let's be crystal clear, this isn't Luna. This isn't Celsius. This is the first true digital monetary institution ever constructed. Documents reveal JP Morgan actively enabled Jeffrey Epstein. They dismissed internal warnings from their own compliance team. They coach him on how to dodge financial reporting requirements. They moved over $1 billion on his behalf. Senior executives reported these activities directly to CEO Jamie Dimon, and they processed a 19 million wire transfer straight to Maxwell.
The mere allegation that's going to come out in these documents is going to ruin people's lives. And I'm sorry, you pushed this. Trump was trying to be a gentleman, and he was going to say a lot of people's lives are going to be ruined. A lot of people will have their reputations destroyed from innuendo. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it's going to happen. Now, you're right about JP Morgan. This is out, and it's huge. So JP Morgan filed 5,000 suspicious activity reports on Epstein. $1 billion in suspicious financial wires from Jeffrey Epstein. That either one or two things is true. He is either at the center of an international sexual blackmail ring, or he's a money launderer. And JP Morgan covered it up. And the Treasury Department's covered up because they get those reports. That's what this has always been about, a sexual blackmail ring. And that's what I'd like to find out more about.
This is the same institution now calling Saylor too risky. The same bank lecturing everyone about financial stability. And here's the thought, Jamie, maybe you sit this one out. Because Trump just named JP Morgan specifically while calling out for the full release of Epstein files. And there is nothing subtle about this. We are watching monetary war being declared in real time. And MSCI isn't just reviewing classification. They are engineering filters specifically to block Bitcoin companies from accessing traditional capital flows. This is a targeted attack. This is asymmetric warfare in the financial system. This isn't about left versus right. It's not even Republican versus Democrat. It's not even East versus West. This is old money versus new money. Legacy banking fighting digital finance. Opaque spreadsheet defending their turf against mathematical uncertainty. And a decaying financial cartel desperately battling an open source revolution. And whether they like it or not, Bitcoin is the final audit. Bitcoiners are mass withdrawing funds from Chase. MicroStrategy share transfer are mysteriously freezing up. FTDs are absolutely spiking. Retail has caught the scent. They know something breaking.
I just want to ask you about the JP Morgan report that came out this morning warning that strategy could be excluded from benchmarks like NASDAQ, MSCI, and it could trigger an estimated $2.8 billion in automatic outflows. That's just from the MSCI alone. What's your response to that?
I think it's a bit alarmist. I'm not so sure the numbers are nearly that high. I think actually the numbers would be much smaller. I also think it's already priced into the market by a factor of 10 if you count it. I don't think there's any relationship between the decision-making of MSCI and the NASDAQ 100 or the S&P 500 index allocators. The company is an operating company. It's just like insurance companies use capital in order to create financial products, and banks use capital to create financial products. We use capital to create digital credit finance products. It's possible there are people in the world that don't fully appreciate digital credit or digital treasuries. That wouldn't surprise me. We had that challenge with bankers that didn't want to bank Bitcoin. We had that challenge with accountants that were a little bit skeptical of digital assets accounting. The accountants embraced the asset, the bankers embraced the asset, the politicians embraced the asset. We had the challenge with credit rating agencies, and they just embraced the asset. We're starting to get credit ratings. We have the challenge under the Basel Accords, where Basel Accords allocate zero value to Bitcoin, and now they've announced they're going to reconsider that.
Man has survived 5 Bitcoin crashes, and he is still buying more. The legend never quits. So here is what we uncovered today. JP Morgan triggered the panic sell-off. MSCI amplifies the damage with strategic timing. The media recycle expired news. Epstein documents expose the moral bankruptcy at the core. Global treasuries are quietly moving towards Bitcoin, and Saylor is innovating at absolute rap speed, and Bitcoin adoption accelerating worldwide faster than ever. So we are standing right in the middle of monetary civil war. It's global, not just American. The old system is fading to irrelevance. The new system is rising to replace it. It's spreading like an invasive species that can't be stopped. So wherever you are watching from, the US, the Asia, Europe, Africa, understand this. You are not late, you are not early. You are right on schedule for the next chapter. Thank you guys for watching. Stay happy, stay blessed, and I will see you in the next episode.